Hi everyone, this is Todd from UXly Software, the creators of One-Shot API. Today I'm going to show you how you can monetize any n8n workflow using the x402 protocol and the One-Shot API n8n community node. So right now I am logged into my n8n session. First thing we need to do is make sure that we've installed the One-Shot API community node. So if we come down here to the user settings, click community nodes, I already have it installed. All you need to do is hit the install button and type in n8n nodes one-shot, agree with this checkbox, and install. And this will install the node for you so that you can use it in your workflows. The second thing is we have provided for you in the GitHub repo an x402.json file. You can import that directly into an empty workflow and you'll see something like this. So all of these nodes are what implement the x402 payment scheme. It may look a little bit complicated, but these blocks are actually pretty simple. So before we start configuring our two n8n nodes, the simulate payment and the submit payment, we need to make sure our One-Shot API account is ready. So come over to oneshotapi.com and make a free account. The first thing you're going to want to do is come to wallets. Come to wallets and create a new wallet for the base Sepolia network. Give it a name that makes sense to you and an optional description. I already have one created here, and as you can see, I've already gone to the base Sepolia faucet and put some funds into this account. So be sure you have a base Sepolia One-Shot API wallet with some testnet funds in it. The next thing we need to do is we need to import into our methods a payment token so that One-Shot API knows what to call. So we're going to be using the USDC testnet contract on base Sepolia. I've got that right here. This address, we're going to copy it, come back to my smart contracts. We're going to create a new endpoint. Let's paste that address here and select base Sepolia. We'll fetch the contract ABI, and we only need to import one function. We don't need all of these. There are two transfer with authorization functions. One of them takes 3 signature values. The other one takes a single field called signature. That's the one that we want. So we're going to select this one, and we're going to give it a name to make it easy to find. So we're going to call it x402 demo, and we're going to leave the rest of these things alone. We're going to hit create endpoint, and if we come back to my smart contracts and filter for just base Sepolia endpoints, here is our x402 endpoint that we're going to be calling. The next thing we want to do is we want to authenticate our nodes against our One-Shot API user account. So if we select simulate payment, I've already authenticated against it, but I'm going to show you how to do it as well. First thing you need is your client ID. Come over to API keys, create a new key, copy this key value and secret value into these 2 fields, and your business ID is available right here. Copy that business ID and input it, and then save. Once you save it, you'll be able to read and write to One-Shot API. So now that we've authenticated One-Shot, we have a wallet, and we have payment endpoint imported, let's take a look at this flow. So the first thing is a webhook node. This simply gives you a public URL that your workflow can be executed from. So this URL is what we're going to be making curl requests against. That's all it does. The next thing it feeds into is an if block. It's basically making sure that the user has provided X payment headers. If they didn't, it will go into a return block, which will just tell the agent that you didn't give an X payment header or it's incorrectly formatted. If there is an X payment header, we will try to decode it. Now the header might be malformed, so we have to account for that. And if it is malformed, we will say that it's an invalid token format, and that will also feed into that return statement. Okay, if it is well formed, we're going to attempt to simulate the transaction before we actually send it to the blockchain and potentially pay gas fees. So here we are authenticated against our account. We want to use a contract method resource. Specifically, we're going to be simulating, and let's choose that endpoint that we just imported. That endpoint expects 7 values, a to, from value, valid after, valid before, nonce, and signature. And you can see here, these are all filled in dynamically based on the data that's fed in from the previous n8n node. So those will be filled in for you totally automatically. This will either pass or fail. So we send it into another if block, and if we've detected that the simulation was successful, we're going to send it off to be submitted. If the simulation failed for whatever reason, for instance, the signature has expired, we're going to send that to a return that says the X payment header did not verify. If it does succeed, we go to the one-shot API submit and wait block. So what this is going to do is it's also going to call our x402 demo transfer with authorization function with the same input arguments that we simulated with. And once it sends the transaction, it's going to block until the transaction is either confirmed or failed. If the transaction fails, again, we return to the user that the payment did not go through, and if it succeeds, we return a 200 success message, and at that point, we could put any workflow that we could come up with in n8n downstream of this workflow. Okay, so let's see it in action. Before you test this, you'll want to go to the base Sepolia USDC faucet and put some USDC testnet funds into your wallet. I've already done that. Fairly simple to do. So we're going to execute this flow. So in the GitHub repository, I have an example curl command that we can use. First, let's test what happens when the payment header is malformed. So let's initiate this. So it's currently listening for a call. So if we make a curl request, you can see X payment header has incorrect format. And you can see the path that it took through our workflow. And this is nice for visual debugging what's happening when people are calling your workflow and maybe it's failing or maybe it's succeeding. You can actually see the logic flow happening in real time. So that one didn't work. We didn't have an actual payment token. Now we're going to generate a valid payment header and we're going to send it. I'm going to use a simple tool to generate a valid payment header. This came from the Coinbase x402 demo repo, and I'm just using it to create a signed base64 encoded payment token. So here, let's grab our payment payload, substitute that here, grab this. Let's be sure to execute our workflow so that it's waiting for us and hit enter. And here we go. We see it made through the simulate. We're waiting for the transaction to mine, and we have a successful payment. Now, once this payment expires, or we've already used it, if we were to run this command again, we would see that the simulate step should fail. So let's just try that to see the other path. Let's just rerun the same command. And you can see here, we tried to resubmit the same signature payload, so the simulate step failed, and we ended up responding to the agent that the X payment header did not verify. So that concludes the x402 workflow in n8n using the one-shot API n8n community node. We walked through installing the n8n node, how to authenticate the one-shot API node against your one-shot API account. Be sure that if you try this, that first you've created a base Sepolia wallet or whatever network that you are trying to receive payment on, and that you've imported into your smart contract methods the payment token endpoint that you need to call, And just so you know, this works on any EVM network that's currently available in One-Shot API, both mainnets and testnets. Check out our other tutorials for automating on-chain workflows using One-Shot API and n8n. Thanks for watching.